Let's get into the tax bill. We've got a tax bill that went through the House, and now it's going to go to the Senate. But my guess, and that's all I'll talk about a little bit. My guess, though, is it's going to get, I don't know, readjusted, affected,
reconciled,
chopped up. I don't think it's going to go through as is. Even from some of the Republicans that I've listened to, they don't like it as is. I've got a chart here. I called it the debt. Essentially, what this chart is going to show is the interest that we as Americans pay on our debt. And the interest has shot up dramatically since COVID for a couple different reasons. Not only has the debt grown dramatically, we're up to 36 trillion now. And I'm not sure what it was pre-COVID, but 20? I don't know. It's grown a lot. It's almost doubled in the last decade. But not just that, but also interest rates have gone up dramatically. And so when you have a larger debt balance and higher rates, then all of a sudden your interest expense, we're paying about 1.2 trillion every year just in interest expense. And so the term that some economists are using is they'll call it the debt death spiral, which is not a good sounding term. Mm-hmm. But essentially, if you don't get control of this, and this is what many of the senators are looking at, is that if the debt keeps growing, which that's the current trajectory, is that we're going to add more to the national debt this year and the year after that and the year after that. Some are projecting that in another 10 years that the debt will probably be somewhere around 60 trillion. And if the debt's at 60 trillion, and that's just assuming rates are where they're at, our interest expense keeps climbing and climbing and climbing to a point where we don't have the money anymore, unless we're dramatically cutting Social Security or Medicare or some of the other big programs. We just can't afford to pay the debt. And that's when you get into a spiral, because then you have to issue more money and borrow more money just to pay the interest, and the rates are going to go to the moon. And so what they're going to try to wrangle in this tax bill, I believe, is to cut more spending. That's what Trump ran on, was balancing the budget. And this bill in its current state is not doing that. And so I think that's where they're going to chop it up in the Senate. Now, where they're going to cut, I'm not sure. But that would be that's what I'm expecting. I don't know what you guys are reading about this, but.
Well, I mean, you got to compare campaign promises to, reality. Once you set it into the legislature and let them, like you said, chop it up. Because there were a couple things that were talked about widely. Let's see, no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. And so unless you slash budgets all over the place, which looked like they were going to start doing, but has really tailed off, it's really, really difficult to make a lot of cuts. You have a big beast of a government that you spend a lot of money on. Right. It's very hard.
Well, most politicians don't run on re-election on how much money they didn't spend.
Yeah.
Normally
Correct.
It's on, look what I got for you.
Yeah, special interest is overused, but that's really what it comes down to. All these people are beholden to other interests. They all require money.
And every congressional district is its own special interest.
Correct.
Right? When we have somebody local here that goes to D.C., what do they talk about? Well, we're gonna have more federal projects here. We're gonna bring money, and we need more of this. We need more of that. So that's really what. Forget about like private or lobbying special interest. We're talking about just you're supposed to be, representing your constituents, and your constituents want what their fair share or maybe even more. And so yeah, it's going to be. I think the next couple of weeks and get this thing figured out. It'll be all chopped up. But
it's like
there are certain things that
like
are likely to get through.
Everybody's talking about the SALT, the state and local taxes, and
right.
whether or not you can use that to deduct against your income there. And the whole issue is, well, there's a number of states that don't have state and local taxes
right.
on that. So
That's right.
Why are we paying for California and New York to charge all these
additional
taxes?
subsidies?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, there's your differences based on where you live too, not just what how you vote.
Well, and the tax package we have in right now is in place was put in 2017, right? So they call them the Trump tax cuts, and that got rid of almost all of your state and local tax deductions. So part of this new bill was, we're going to put this back in, and what I've read is the number is going to be somewhere around $30,000 for a married couple, phasing out at about $400 phasing down to a cap, like a lower cap of 10,000, which is exactly where we are now.
Same.
So you are scooping up some people potentially, and adding that in, but for a lot of people, it's a non-event because you're way under where you don't pay $30,000-$40,000 in state and local taxes to begin with, or you're over 500 in
Income.
combined income, and you're right back to the $10,000 number. So
The bond market is expressing its fear. I think for too long, we as Americans, we don't want to face the music. No one wants to take a cut on any of their benefits. Just add it to the debt. We'll worry about it later. And we've been doing that. I think the last time we balanced a budget was Clinton. And so now,
Been a while.
since this already went through the House, we saw the 30-year U.S. Treasury spike. So that means you're loaning your money to the federal government for 30 years with the promise that they're going to pay you back in 30 years. Well, now people want to be paid a little bit more for that, even though it's technically guaranteed because the government will print more money. The fear that something might change 30 years from now, that's starting to.
I think you're getting a little bit of that, but 10 plus year Treasury bonds mostly price on inflation expectations.
Correct.
And so even though inflation seems to be down, there's thought that as things slow, maybe the Fed has to start lowering rates. We've been talking about that over the past few months too. And if they lower rates, you should have more economic activity, which should add some more to inflation, and potentially your inflation numbers go up quite a bit. I don't know. They're not chasing the inflation that we had a couple of years ago when we were in the 8s and 7s and 8s. I think people were really upset about that. But you do want economic growth. You do want GDP growth. And we were talking about earlier about GDP being down in the first quarter of this year.
Yeah.
You can't have too many quarters in a row where it goes down. I don't care what your academic definition of a recession is. If that's happening, people are down in income one way or another. You either lost your job, or you got your hours cut back, or your company closed down, whatever the case may be, and that's not going to be a good thing for anybody, really.
Yeah, I just looked at where inflation's like 2.3% year over year. So
Right.
Yeah, but your 10 year is reflecting that too. I think where this, to kind of put a bow on this bill, I think that's been reflective in there too, that if we're going to have to run a further deficit and likely print more money, then you're going to have some inflation.
Is your number somewhere around $2 trillion in added deficit?
Correct.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that tacks on quite a bit.
Yeah. And I guess one thing that I always think about when we start talking about government spending, because it irritates me, that they work so different than us, right? We make money and then we spend it. Now you can spend money on a credit card, but that costs you a lot if you don't pay it off. Government spends the money and then goes and tries to find it. So they just spend whatever they want. And then if there's a deficit, then, they sell bonds, and that's how it goes. So it's completely the opposite of us. And how this relates, I've been talking to a lot of clients lately, and Roth's been a big thing. Roth. Roth is the best because I think it's all over the news. People talk about Roth. Dave Ramsey's talk about Roth all the time. And Roth is good. There's nothing wrong with Roth. It is good. But I always get concerned when you're talking 20 years from now, 30 years from now. Like the rules today, we're talking about this spending bill and how different things are now than 10 years ago. The rules today are not going to be the rules in 20 years. They're just not. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be tax and there's not going to be some basic things that are similar. But if you think you're going to put all your money in Roth, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to throw this out. If you think you're going to put all your money in Roth, and you're going to be very wealthy, and you're going to pay no tax, and you got another 20, 30 years, I would say you're completely off. Because there's going to be, they always need money. They're already analyzing our healthcare benefits.
Well, so part of this bill is no tax on Social Security, right? So that's already been essentially shelved. They're talking about an extra tax deduction for seniors, probably defined as 65 plus, of $4,000. You're going to get an extra tax deduction because you're 65 or older of $4,000, and that's supposed to offset some of the tax that you pay on Social Security. There was a time when Social Security was not taxed.
Correct.
And then 50% of it was taxed.
Correct.
And then for most of our clients, 85% is now taxable.
Yep.
And so they throw. But to your point, as Roth gets bigger and bigger, 1 trillion, 2 trillion, 17 trillion, $30 trillion in Roth, and you tell, I've said this for years and years, you tell a Congress that that's untouchable. You can't touch the Roth, and they go, who owns all this Roth? Oh, the wealthy people. Well,
we can touch it.
Maybe we can touch it a little bit. We'll touch it here and we'll touch it there, and it's a slippery slope.
The only reason they don't touch Social Security and Medicare is because that's so universal.
But they do. But my point is, they do touch it. They do touch it, meaning they tax it now.
Oh, right. But that's a lot more under the carpet for most people. They don't see that as much as if they said they were going to cut their benefits.
But that's the touching. That's the touching that will happen with Roth.
Oh, no question. Same thing.
My only counter to that too, though, is you look at, like you talked about, Social Security benefits and other things that have been changed, but it's also not like retroactive. It's changed for going forward.
The future.
So
that's right.
The future. So those with those Roth balances, the fact that they're going to go and undo that, I don't see it. Plus, they already have the inheritance part of the Roth.
No, not undo it. I think it'll be something more like, if your income is over X, then maybe you get taxed 10% of the gains on your Roth. It'll be some little listen, all the taxes are nickel and dime taxes. They're never going to come in with.
Well, they start that way.
They start that way, right? It's always Obamacare tax, 3.8%. It's Social Security tax. It's disability tax, state disability taxes. They're all small. But my point on this, and this is arbitrary. We can argue it forever, but they're never going to go back 20 years and go, when you made that contribution, you deducted it. You can't deduct that. We're going to go ahead and get that back. But in the future, the rules are going to change. And if you have balances, again, we're not trying to freak people out about having Roth. I think it's a good thing. But I don't think that you should put all your eggs in that basket thinking, if I just get all my money in here, in 30 years, I'll never pay tax again. Like, that's probably not accurate.
Yeah. Today, you can get away with it.
Today, you could.
Today, if you're in distribution phase and you have all your money, you get millions of dollars in Roth, you're fortunate. You're gonna be a good spot. But I think you're right. And as those targets just get bigger, it's easy picking, I think, for Congress 10 years from now to just go, yeah, we're going to have to go back and revisit this and just make it to where on distribution, when you start distributing money, if your taxable income is over $400,000, then your distributions are going to be taxed at 15% or whatever the number is.
It's not hard. You just have to follow the patterns. Like I said, healthcare, they're already collecting healthcare premiums. Not doing anything with it.
Information.
On it. Just information.
Yeah.
And then the people that, have, quote, Cadillac plans, according to their definition, probably someday, maybe soon, maybe later, will end up paying some tax on those plans. So, again, I'm not saying that I don't like it, but it is what it is. And we're trying to help people now.
And the way you pay tax, in that example, the way you pay taxes, it's just not deductible anymore.
Correct.
Because right now, companies deduct your premiums. Yeah, and they're 100% deductible, whether it's $1,000 a month or $3,000 a month, it's 100% deductible. Well, maybe for these plans, it's less deductible. Yeah. So,
100%.
Yeah, we'll see. You want to know a couple other things that are kind of interesting?
Yeah.
Car loans. They're talking about car loan interest being deductible.
I heard
going
that.
forward.
Wow.
For the next 5 years. As long as you purchase between January 1st of 25.
Phase out?
And phase out's at $200,000. $200,000. So, and it's capped at $10,000. Which is nowadays
can't finance your Lamborghini and write it all off.
I don't think you'll be able to.
So you can get a Fiat.
Well, I'm sorry, capped at $10,000 of interest per year.
Okay.
So that's a decent sized number.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's qualified passenger vehicles. So again, make a little definition for what's qualified and what's non-qualified, and again, does it have to be domestic? These are things that they may fold in there. Well, only on a U.S. car. If you buy an Isuzu or you buy a Subaru,
Honda,
you can't deduct it, or it has to be manufactured in the United States. Again, back to the
assembled, manufactured.
Yeah, exactly.
That would change a few conversations I've had just in the last 3 weeks. I don't know if you guys have, but I've had the calls where I'm purchasing a new vehicle. Should I pay cash or should I finance it?
Yep.
Or should I lease it? Going through those conversations because for at least 15 years. You always financed it because the rate was zero.
Yeah.
Or one or whatever.
What are you seeing?
So now it really depends. It's a one-off case depending upon the client, right? Because if they're able to finance, typical rates right now are somewhere between 5 and 8, let's say.
Yep.
And if their money is invested in a quote balanced portfolio, that's kind of in the targeted range of what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
And so it really depends on their liquidity. It depends on their cash. It depends on everything, right?
What have your answers been these last couple weeks, though?
Well, the last one, it was a gentleman that had inherited some money. Long story, really short, but his scenario was a pay cash because he was invested very conservatively, mostly in a bond style portfolio with a little bit of stock, and his finance rate was going to be 4.95. I'm like, it's a wash.
Correct.
It's a wash. So let's look at your liquidity. Do you mind carrying the payment? Would you rather not? Older gentleman didn't want to deal with it. I'm like, just write a check.
Yeah. I'll say the one thing, though, too, is that everybody thinks rates have gone up, right? Because we've seen that with the Fed and assume you hear the rates online or commercials for car rates, But a lot of these dealerships still with good credit, if you keep your loan to 3 years or less, you're getting 0.9.
Yep.
On certain makes and models.
Right.
For sure.
So, like, for example, GMC, 0.9 for 3 years.
But
so
you got to be able to
case,
afford the payment. That's
right.
The thing, yeah.
But if you're paying cash as your alternative, you could probably afford the
You
payment.
can afford the payment. Yeah.
So my point is, depending on the scenario, again, if your goal is to finance it for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years at 5%, that's I agree. It doesn't
not a
make
good
sense.
strategy.
But if you can still find the lower rates for a shorter period of time,
So
then it makes sense.
summary here too is ask us. I mean, these are the things we
For sure.
we
Run the
talk
scenario
about. Like,
by.
if you can find a 0% or 0.9 for 3 years and you can afford the payments, again, it doesn't deplete all your cash, you have it available. Why wouldn't you basically pay nothing? You're borrowing money for free. You either put it all in or you earn, let's just say you earn money market rates at the very lowest, right? You earn 4% and you pay 0.9. That's a 3% win.
well, and like we've said a lot lately, right? Shop your cash or shop your rates. I mean, a lot of people are running to EECU to get their auto loan because it's historically been cheaper than, say, the dealership. And now all of a sudden they're not giving you 0.9, but the dealership might. So,
Well, because the dealership's got to move.
Got to move cars.
Got to move vehicles. They got to get them sold. So we had a client yesterday that bought at 0.9%. So she's financed for 3 years, 0.9%. Much better, much better. So she'll just pay out of her regular IRA distributions, kick them up a little bit, and she'll pay for the truck. So
Yep.
it's pretty good.
Always good conversations.
What else? To finish up this tips. So a lot of people, the article I was reading was cracking me up. It's like if you're in a service business that traditionally didn't get tips, you can't suddenly change all your revenue into tips. So like the rule is for occupations or jobs that had which customarily had tips prior to
No one ever reported
12/31.
them anyway. And so
Correct.
this is a nothing burger. You
Well,
know what I mean?
it's even worse than that because the case study was most of these people don't make enough money to pay a lot of tax in the first place. They're below the rate where they would otherwise pay tax. So again, campaign promise
it's not moving
doesn't
the
make
needle.
much of a
it
splash.
sounds good, but it doesn't have a real impact.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because like you said, most people receiving tips aren't reporting it. It's a cash tip, and it's under the radar.
And
I
even
mean, I
even
know
for
this
those that
isn't being
do.
recorded or anything, but I used to work at Applebee's. When I got tips.
Statute of limitations. I think you're all right here. You're old enough now, Jason, where that was a long time ago. But and then I guess the last thing I'll just say on this is if this bill goes through, it holds tax brackets steady through like 2028, 2029. So a lot of the conversations I've had with clients recently is like, okay, we got to wait till this bill goes through so we can actually see, because we can't really do a lot of planning on proposed bills. They have to be accepted and they have to be in place for us to change any of the plans or to have client situations really change.
Well, I think
materially.
a lot of it impacts estate decisions too.
For sure.
I was going to say that.
Depending on where their estate's at and the estate tax situation too is a lot of things that are up in the air right now.
For clients of higher net worth that have estate planning, different kinds of trusts and things like that, and if your estate warrants it, I would highly recommend, we look at this bill as it's passed and then see how that affects you and speak to your attorney as well and your CPA, because there might be some changes that you need to do that could benefit you.
No question.